In yoga, core is considered as the front part of the body, the sides of the body, and the back body. The muscles that support the full circumference of the core are what we focus on in the practice. In this practice, we'll be doing just that. First, we'll stretch these muscles to bring awareness to the full circumference of the core, followed by strengthening actions from kneeling positions to our forearms and finally lying down. You might want a blanket for this for more comfort for your knees. We'll begin kneeling. In a kneeling position, step your right foot forward and have your right ankle right under your knee. Take your hands either to your low back or take your hands behind your head. Interlace your fingers, open your elbows wide, draw your heart down toward your knee, and lift up. Keep your leg very strong so that the knee stays very stable in the action. As you draw down, rise up, draw down, rise up. Now we'll do circles with the upper body. Draw to the right side, down, to the left side, back up, and a baby back bend. Look up toward the sky. To the right, down, to the left, lift up. Now we'll do the counterclockwise movement. Draw to the left, down, to the right, lift up, back bend. Again, to the left, down, over to the side, and lift up, nice back bend. Release your hands. Notice how the legs, if you keep them very stable, how you start to feel that engagement. Let's come to the opposite side. As you take your left foot forward, line up your knee over your ankle. Take your hands either to the low back to do these forward bends or interlace your fingers behind your head. I kind of like the fingers interlaced because it opens the upper chest so nicely. Draw your heart down toward the knee as if you're about to tap it. Rise up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Keep that strong engagement. Now draw over to the left. Draw down to the right and lift up. To the left, down, to the right, lift up and slightly back. Now we'll go to the opposite direction. Draw to the right, down, to the left, lift up and slightly back. Draw to the right, down, to the left, and open up. Release your hands and come to all fours position. You probably won't need your blanket for this, your padding. Come to your forearms. With your forearms in the Sphinx position, take your pelvis all the way down. With your forearms parallel, tuck your toes under. For most of us, we'll stay with our knees down and lift the pelvis up, hold the pelvis up, and take the pelvis down. Now, you might want to take the knees and the pelvis up, so you could try that in a forearm plank. Take the pelvis up, take the knees up, hold the pose. Or if that's too much, just take your knees down and hold the pose. Release your pelvis down. Let's do one more of those. Your choice, either knees down or knees lifted. Lift your pelvis. Your choice. Lift your knees if you wish. Hold the pose. Release your knees down and your pelvis down. Using the same arm position in this dolphin-like pose, forearms down. Lift your pelvis up. Draw your right foot over to the side for balance. From here, with your right forearm pressing down, lift your left arm up, reach it forward. Take your left arm up again, reach it forward. Take the arm up again, reach forward and down. Come to your belly. Breathe in and breathe out. Forearm plank really requires engagement of your core muscles. Let's work on the opposite side. Change my angle a little bit. From your forearm position, lift your pelvis up, swing your left foot off to the side, stack your right leg. So now the pelvis is lifted. Lift your arm up. With the right arm lifted, reach way forward so you feel this fullness in the back body. Keep the pelvis lifted. Reach your arm up. Reach forward again. Inhale, take your arm up. Reach forward again. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, release down. We'll take a little break on those forearm movements as we come to a kneeling position, and you might want a little padding for your knees in this. From the kneeling position, lean to your right so you feel like most of your weight is on the right leg. Keeping your foot down, can you lift your left knee up so you're balancing on your right leg? Maybe you can even lift your foot up or just tap it down. Notice how the right leg really has to engage to feel like you're going to balance. The great thing about balance position on the knees is you don't have far to fall if you lose control. Just keep on lifting up to balance on the right leg. Maybe using your arms will help you balance on one leg. Release your left knee down. Take your weight over to your left knee now. So perhaps your right toes are still on the mat. See if you can just balance there. So a lot of weight. You'll feel a lot of action here as you try to balance. And stay on the left knee. Maybe you can lift up your right foot. Maybe your arms help you balance. Notice how one leg feels a lot easier than the other. So just see what you can do to get that engagement. Core muscles have to really work. You have to really hug in toward the midline in your action to get that balance. As you just work this pose, just kind of notice how it's really challenging to stay on one leg. You can come out of that balance, that kneeling balance pose, to come back to your forearms with your fingers interlaced. This forearm balance is similar to what we did before on our forearms, in that we'll be taking weight to the right and left side, but our fingers are interlaced. Once again, there's an option. You can have your knees off the ground or on the ground. We'll start with our knees on the ground. With the fingers interlaced, the forearms pressing down, your knees on the ground. Just draw your heart forward and slightly down and lift your pelvis up. Similar to what we did before, we'll move to one side and the other. So move to the right side, so your left leg stacks over the right, so you bring your pelvis down. Inhale, you lift it up. Take your pelvis down toward the earth, not all the way on the earth. Lift it up. Take your pelvis toward the earth. Start to notice how the side muscles engage so strongly in this. Come back. Come back to your knees, both knees planted. Before shifting your weight over to your left knee, stack your right knee on top of that. Draw your pelvis down. Lift it up. Draw your pelvis down. Lift up. And again, draw your pelvis down. Lift up. Come back to your knees and lift up just to give yourself a bit of a break. We'll be doing that again. You might want to try lifting your knees up, in which case that'll lift your pelvis up so much higher, almost as if you're going toward a downward facing dog. Let's try it with the forearms down, with your fingers interlaced. Again, your choice. Knees on the ground or knees off the ground. We'll go to the right side first. You can pivot over to the right side with the left leg stacked. Draw down toward the earth. Lift up. Draw down toward the earth. Lift up. Draw down toward the earth. Lift up. Come back to the center position. You can rest here if you wish. You can just pause in whatever pose allows you to just kind of to bring yourself to a little bit more balanced action. Before shifting your weight to the left side and draw down, lift up, draw down, lift up, draw down. Come back to your knees and come to either downward facing dog or child's pose, whichever works for you. Once again, get that sense of balanced action. Breathe in through the nose. You breathe out through the nose. Come to a seated pose with your feet forward and legs straight. I like taking my feet off the mat because they don't slide quite as well. Bend your knees, draw back. See if you can draw way back. And now straighten your legs and sit up. Now we can use the arms to help us out in that action. So draw your feet in toward each other. Maybe you can even balance here. Reach your feet forward and stretch toward your feet. Bend your knees again. We're trying to get this engagement of the abdominals as you draw your feet in, and straighten your legs. Reach forward. This is preparation for a pose called Navasana. So draw your feet in, lift them up, tap your feet down, straighten your legs, and reach forward. Let's come to line your back. As you line your back, with bent knees. Find the neutral spine, meaning there's a nice lumbar curve. Your low back is not pressing down to the mat. Lift your feet up, and notice when you lift your feet up, the low back just comes right to the mat. So bend your knees slightly. Take your feet further away from your face so that you've got a neutral spine. From here, take your right foot down toward the mat. Again, knees can be slightly bent. Inhale, lift your right foot up. Same thing with the left leg. Draw your left foot to the earth. Slowly lift up. You're not trying to draw it all the way to the earth, just as if you're tapping with your right foot, drawing down. Lift up. You feel a nice engagement. The slower you go, of course, the more you feel this. Let's do this one more time. Draw your right foot toward the earth. Lift your right leg up. Left leg, slower you go, the more you can engage nicely. Keep your low back in that nice neutral spine. Bend your knees. Take your feet to the floor. Just pause here. Just come back to a nice ease in your breath. Find the curve again, nice lumbar curve. Lift your feet up off the floor with the knees bent. This time your shin bones are roughly parallel to the earth. Check to see that you've got a little space between the low back and the mat. Draw your right toes down toward the earth. Lift them up. Draw your left toes down and up. Take your knees further away from your chest. Take your right toes down and up. Left toes down and up. Take your knees slightly further away. Take your right toes down. Lift up. Take your left toes down and up. Release your feet down. Straighten your legs. Release your arms to your side. Close your eyes. Allow the feeling of complete support. So you can just let go. You've given yourself this time to take your attention, your awareness to your body, the muscles that support your core, the muscles on the front side, the right and left side, and the back side. Feeling this full support, let your arms and your legs surrender. Allow them to feel so heavy. You feel so anchored to the earth. And that stability brings greater ease. Bring your attention to your breath. Soften your facial muscles. Breathe in deep. Breathe out long. Breathe in deep. Breathe out long. Breathe in deep. Breathe out long. Slowly bend your knees to plant your feet. Take your arms up and over your head. Draw over to your side. Slowly make your way to a seated position. We honor the practice of yoga, these teachings that allow us to bring more awareness to the self. Namaste.